Chat history, the dumbest deaths in history that actually happened. We will be watching that.
The stupidest deaths in history. Whether you're a deli worker or a sexually deprived mortician, you gotta love getting your hands on some cold meat, and the prime gentleman that was Sir Francis Bacon was no exception to that questionable rule. Francis Bacon was a man of science. In fact, he's considered to be one of the founders of modern science. Born as a tiny little strip back in 1561 in London, Bacon was a sickly little sprite and was always easily susceptible to illness. Remember that for later. Although he was a frail fellow, he was born into a wealthy, noble family. His father was a powerful politician, and his mother was highly educated, which, during Tudor times in England, was weird for women. Nevertheless, his fortunate family situation afforded him an extensive education while he laid in bed, grossly coughing up gooey globs. Between the bouts of illness, however, Bacon had a profound proclivity for the sciences. At just 12 years old, he attended the prestigious Trinity College at the University of Cambridge to make himself smarter. In doing so, though, he started to get pretty peeved with how things were being done within the scientific community. He noticed that all these smarty pants people at the time kind of just sat around philosophizing on rather abstract aspects of the world instead of gathering evidence through practical experimentation. I say, have you ever wondered why we're here on this earth? I don't know. Have you ever wondered why your eyes are so far apart? Okay, rude. This sense of scientific stagnation, he thought, was just holding humanity back from figuring out what really matters and what would actually benefit society as a whole. Now keep in mind, these were the early years of the scientific revolution in Europe, so his ideas were on par with the flow of scientific thought at the time. But if you wanted to spend time experimenting with and revolutionizing a whole-ass branch of science, you're gonna need to spend money. Lots of money. Francis just needed to get his little English mitts on some moolah. Taking advantage of his lineage and prowess, he began rubbing elbows with some major political powers. He even befriended Queen Elizabeth I herself before she crusted away into dust. He quickly rose through the ranks and established himself as a prominent political figure, eventually reaching the title of Lord Chancellor of all England in 1618. In case you're unaware, that's like the highest position of power outside of being the king or queen. Adapting his scientific method to politics, Bacon aimed to untangle legal knots and simplify laws, modernizing England's judicial system and sluggish legal processes. He did it. Guilty! Huh? Although his political career was flourishing, it ended rather abruptly. How? Well, you remember he needed a bunch of money, right? So ask yourself, how do politicians end up a whole lot richer than their salaries could ever possibly provide? Corruption. Yup, Bacon took a bunch of bribes, so he was ousted and quickly kicked from court in 1621 after a hefty fine and a brief stay in the Tower of London. While he had been dabbling with it on the side, Bacon was now free to pursue his passion for science full-time. He always let his scientific mind wander and wonder, always thinking up practical solutions that affected real people. Well, as fate would have it, one of his potential solutions became a real problem. While traveling in a snowstorm in 1626, Francis stared out into the icy conditions over yonder, pondering the practicality of snow for natural refrigeration purposes. You know, normal thoughts. He was then hit with an idea. Snow is cold and foodstuffs like meat usually last longer when cold, so could snow make meat cold for longer food life? It was worth a try. Francis then leapt from his carriage into the blustery blizzard and moseyed on up to a wobbly, withering woman holding a chicken. Hello. Francis promptly stripped the chicken and proceeded to cram and jam fistfuls of snow into the gaping poultry hole to test his theory. Over the next several days, he would have his answer, but unbeknownst to him, the next several days were all he had left. Remember how he was pretty susceptible to the icky sickies when he was a wee lad? Well, that persisted into adulthood. So, all frigid and fragile, the immunocompromised Francis had succumbed to a cold, which quickly escalated to full-blown pneumonia. Bacon went belly up just a few days later. In his last flickers of life, he confirmed his experiment to be a success. Snow do make chicken cold.
We interrupt this program to bring you
Gamersupps. Do you get dehydrated a lot, need a drink that won't break the bank? Then you should get Gamersupps. It's caffeine-free and caffeinated. It's sugar-free. It's freaking keto, man. Compare it with things like Red Bull coffee.
Oh, no.
Get that out of here. Quench your inner gamer with Gamersupps.
You don't have to be an expert to be an expert, something that Mr. Alan Pinkerton quickly found out as he became a prominent figure during the most tumultuous times in American history. Now, despite being remembered for his American antics, Pinkerton was actually Scottish. Aye. He was born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1819, but fled to the States in his young adulthood. With only a few low-poly coins in his pocket, he purchased a low-poly horse and wagon to set out and seek his fortune. Nay. Desperate for work, he took up a job as a cooper for a brewery in Chicago. Oh, what's a cooper? Well, it's someone who makes wooden casks and containers. Not very exciting, but with bills needing to be paid, he was kind of bent over a barrel. After a few years of building wooden cylinders, Pinkerton left the city to begin a humble life in the countryside. He built himself a cabin and started his own barrel-making business since that was his only skill. But one day while he was out whacking his wood, he saw something he shouldn't have. A band of counterfeiters were counterfeiting some counterfeit money, which is illegal. But instead of immediately running to the authorities, Pinkerton instead studied their movements and patterns, mapping out their entire operation. After a few weeks, he handed in his very detailed report over to the local sheriff. Son, I'm gonna level with you. This is beautiful. Golly, looks just like me. With the intelligence in hand, the sheriff made the arrest. This single event gave Pinkerton a real chubster for criminal detective work, which in 1849 led to him becoming the first police detective in Chicago and the forming of his very own Pinkerton National Detective Agency, which
I'm sorry, but the Legend of Zelda noises are frying me.
still operates to this day. Under Pinkerton, the agency thwarted the evil deeds of many train robberies, vandals, swindlers, and thieves alike over the next several years, all while laying down the groundwork for modern investigative principles and gaining national fame. But then, in 1861, the American Civil War broke out because of states' rights. Just kidding. It was because of slavery. Slavery was, in an economic sense, pretty wonderful and critical for these southern states. From a humanitarian standpoint, it was a complete abomination.
Right.
And Pinkerton shared that sentiment, having personally supported and funded abolitionist leaders. With his investigative background, Pinkerton served as the head of the Union's intelligence service. During his tenure, he uncovered various assassination plots to kill President Lincoln, apparently not all of them, provided estimates of Confederate troop numbers to Union generals, which were highly inaccurate and actually detrimental to the war effort, and even worked undercover as a Confederate soldier on multiple occasions. Howdy, y'all, where can I find a tumbleweed? Who the fuck is this guy? He got found out real quick. Almost died, actually, but not yet. So yeah, while he was very successful in his pre-war detective work, he wasn't exactly Sherlock Holmesing it on the war front. But anyway, after the South got their peanuts boiled, Pinkerton returned to his detective work, mainly attempting to catch train robbers. Keyword being attempting. By the 1870s, age was catching up to him, as you can see by his beard getting longer and presumably grayer. After failing to catch infamous outlaw Jesse James, financial support started slipping. Well, in 1884, ironically enough, it would be Allen himself who would be slipping as well. Although it's often debated, the most popular story surrounding Pinkerton's death was that he had slipped on the pavement while out on a stroll. He jammed his jaw onto the ground and he sunk his teeth into his tongue. Going untreated, the wound festered and turned gangrenous over the following days, sending Pinkerton to the private eye in the sky. So, fun fact, the same exact thing actually happened to my real-life sister. You know, minus the gangrene and death. Will you quit horsing around? She's just gonna have to learn. Any fella or fellette worth their salt knows who Harry Houdini is. Or was. Six Flags Great Adventure, Houdini's Great Escape, 10 out of 10 ride. Even though you know he's one of history's greatest magicians, you probably don't know how he actually died. And because he's in this video, yeah. The real-life slippery little magician came from humble beginnings.
I'm sorry, did he call him a slippery little... What is he, slipping Jimmy over here? Like, dude.
Born Eric Weiss in Austria-Hungary, teeny-weeny pre-Houdini and his family fled Europe in 1878 when he was just 4 years old. His family struggled financially, hopping from place to place in the United States, before finally settling down in 1887. In East New York City, poorly raised, in a circus is where he spent most of his days, chilling out, zipping and flipping up high from the swinging trapeze above the gals and guys. He soared up through the air and his act was pretty good. Started making money in his neighborhood. He put on his little tights and the people—
No, I thought he got in one little fight, please.
just stared. They said, "There goes itty bitty Eric. He's the prince of the air." Thank you. Flip forward a few years to 1891, and Eric traded in the trapeze for the ease of traps. He also traded in his name. Eric Weiss became Harry Houdini, an amalgamated name created as a tribute to magicians Harry Keller and Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin. Houdini performed various acts with his younger brother Theodore, and initial audience reception was eh. But after meeting a fellow performer of the female variety and wifing her up, and also replacing his brother in the process, the husband and wife duo performed as the Houdinis in the late 1890s. Right before the turn of the century in 1899, Harry would soon be unable to escape his astronomical rise to fame. After meeting several managers and impressing them with his acts, he began booking performances across the nation and soon across the Atlantic in Europe. In just a year, Harry and his wife went from starving artists to raking in a modern-day equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars a month.
Dang.
Houdini soon became a household name. Cuffs, cars, cans, crates.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Houdini soon became a household name. Cuffs, cars.
Bro, go back.
Household name. Cuffs.
Go back! What?
Cuffs, cars, cans, crates.
Crazy.
There was nothing from which he couldn't escape. He and his thunderous quads and milky hamstrings even challenged the public to construct traps and bindings to hold him. Nothing could. Straitjackets? Not a problem. Locked water-filled tanks? Easy peasy. The belly of a beached sea critter? Simple stuff. Now, what was unique about Houdini was that his acts were very real. Sure, there were a few tricks here and there as fail-safes, but if unsuccessful, Houdini faced the very real possibility of serious injury or death. But that was the whole thrill of it. That was the draw. Crowds flocked to see if his latest stunt would end up being his last.
So freaking good.
Ooh, this is it. Aw, maybe next time. Despite escaping
Not them preying on his downfall.
from boxes, tombs, chains, or sealed rooms, Houdini couldn't escape that one inevitability: death itself. It's just a shame that the master of defying death would die in such a stupid manner. On October 22nd, 1926, at the age of 52, Houdini was resting backstage while performing at the Princess Theatre in Montreal. A few Canadian fellers no-clipped into Houdini's dressing room to have a chat about the performance. One student, Jocelyn Whitehead, came forth and questioned Houdini's amazing claim that he could withstand any punch to his stomach. Now, according to witness testimony, mainly the students who were right there with him, Whitehead reportedly delivered 5 devastating blows to Houdini's abdomen before Houdini even had time to properly react. Think fast, eh?
What the frick?
Houdini initially brushed this incident off and continued performing in agonizing pain. Over the next few days, he developed a 104-degree Fahrenheit fever. Turns out the blunt force trauma had contributed to Houdini's—
Dude got 5 punched. 5 punch! You know what I mean? Like,
appendix full-on rupturing.
Dude.
Doctors had managed to remove the busted organ, but all the toxic appendix juices had already leaked into and poisoned his body
so
by
sad.
then. Succumbing to peritonitis, Harry Houdini's final act was escaping this mortal coil on Halloween Day, 1926. Spooky.
That's crazy, man.
Now this is 2 stupid deaths for the price of 1. Now, to be honest,
2
it's
stupid deaths. 2 stupid deaths.
pretty sad.
2 stupid
Homer
deaths.
and Langley Collier were 2 rather eccentric brothers from the same mother. Mama was an opera singer and Papa was a gynecologist, so both parents were familiar with peeling back some curtains. Having successful parents gave the boys bountiful bank accounts and solid educational opportunities. Homer studied maritime law, while Langley studied chemistry, engineering, and was a whiz at tickling the ivories. They lived in a large
cute.
Harlem brownstone row house in New York City. Dad died in 1923 and Mom died in 1929. Now, once Mama Collier bit the dust, the now 40-something-year-old brothers remained in the family home while still going about their daily lives. That is, until the back of Homer's eyes blew the fuck out. With his brother now fully blind, Langley chose to quit his career to become a caretaker. In doing so, both brothers became reclusive and cut themselves off from the rest of the world. Over the years, the economics of Harlem began to shift, as did the growing fear of crime, all the more solidifying the brothers' decisions to be shut-ins. They wanted nothing to do with society, but society began gaining a curiosity with them. Now, it was no secret that the brothers came from
Rich
money.
AF.
Everyone knew it, including the newer, less economically inclined neighbors. That being the case, the brothers' fears soon became reality. People began attempting break-ins. In response, the brothers boarded up their broken windows and sealed any and
What were people's problems, man?
all entrances and exits. But they didn't stop there. They wanted some insurance that even if someone did break in, they wouldn't get very far. So Langley engineered several defensive traps throughout the home.
Whoa!
Like full-on
What in the Home Alone is going on? Let me guess, they got reversed Home Alone.
Home Alone type shit.
Oh my gosh! Everyone's gonna say pre-watched, help.
Hello? Over the years, mountains of newspapers
Yo! This is some crazy old hoarding, dude.
books, and useless junk and garbage piled up to the ceiling in nearly every room. Walls of knickknacks and tunnels of trinkets. The brothers would reportedly sleep in nests fashioned out of the debris. Of course, this lifestyle was pretty friggin' unhealthy, and this only exacerbated Homer's poor health condition. Within a few years, he became paralyzed due to inflammatory rheumatism. With the combination of having nearly 15,000 medical books strewn about their home and being sons of a medical professional, the brothers actually distrusted doctors.
Go to
Langley
a real
actually
doctor.
refused to let anyone ever see or even speak to his disabled brother. He believed that even if he did take Homer for a medical evaluation, the doctor would essentially put his brother in a grave that much faster. Instead, Langley opted for a strict regimen of oranges, bread, and peanut butter scavenged from various midnight strolls to restore Homer's
Oranges and peanut butter. Oranges and peanut butter, dude.
vitality and vision. Didn't work. In fact, the brothers' untimely deaths would be a product of their own paranoia. In 1947, an anonymous tip-off to police reported the
Girl
smell of
dinner,
decomposition coming from the home. They investigated and, after no response from within the home, were forced to break in. The officers were shocked to find the endless piles of densely packed trash just stuffed throughout the house. It took several men several hours to remove just a small percentage of it, just enough to
Dang.
find the corpse of Homer Collier,
That's
bent over in a
horrifying.
bathrobe, dead from starvation.
What?
With Langley nowhere to be found, the police assumed that he was the one who called in the tip and skipped town. But that wasn't the case. The cleaning effort of the home continued for over a month. That's when they finally found Langley. He had been there the whole time, crushed under debris from one of his own traps that he accidentally set off. The trap had
He freaking got home alone in his own little hoarder hovel.
pinned the 61-year-old to the floor, suffocating him. Without his care, Homer had wasted away, paralyzed and blind,
Frick.
unable to help himself in any way. Told you it was sad.
That's wild, dude.
All right, now this is easily the most stupid death on the list, pretty much because it was well-deserved and self-inflicted.
What?
Say hello to David Grundman. Hey there.
Hi.
He's an idiot. Hey. Now say hello to this, a saguaro
Cactus.
cactus. Hi. They're the type of cactus you think of when you think of a cactus.
I used to live in Arizona, and these big boys, you would see them all the time in Arizona. Yeah, I'm very familiar with these cacti. There were tons of these babies in our wash. The bigger they are, like the older they are. Like depending on how big they are, they could have been like around for like hundreds of years. They're pretty cool.
With its stereotypical cactus shape. Look how cactusy it looks. Now that's a cactus.
Very.
So when it comes to David Grundman, there's not really much known about the guy. Why would there be? He wasn't famous, wealthy, notorious, or otherwise notable. He was just some dude who made a bad choice. Sorry, David, but it's true. In
What'd he do? Lick it?
1982, a 27-year-old David and his roommate James decided to have themselves an exciting day. Now, when you live in the middle of the
No. What does that mean? No. Do not tell me that he tried to the cactus. Guys, do not the cactus. Is that what he did?
blistering balls hot region of Satan's asshole, Arizona, you gotta get creative. So David and James carted themselves into the desert for some rootin' tootin' recreational shooting. Problem is, there's nothing too exciting to shoot at in the goddamn desert. Well, almost nothing. You got some snakes, deer, sheep, and a big old bug, but they mostly required permits and such. So instead of blowing out the brains of various animals, the two fellas decided to take—
Oh, that wouldn't have been smart, because if there's recoil, then those things recoil right back at you. Is that what happened?
their aggressions out on a particularly vertical saguaro cactus. Now, if you're unaware, these bad boys are huge, much larger than you'd imagine a cactus
They're
to be.
so big.
Saguaro cactuses have been known to grow as high as 80 feet.
Yeah, they're
That's like
huge.
at least 3 meters or whatever. And if you see one with multiple arms, it's highly likely that that cactus is well over 100 years
Yeah, exactly what I was saying.
old. At their peak, a single full-grown saguaro cactus can weigh nearly 5,000 pounds or 2,300 kilos. With that in mind, David and James sought to cut a particularly girthy cactus down to size. In lieu of an axe, however, they opted to cut the cactus down the way our founding fathers intended, with a firearm. Lifting his shotgun, David did a trial run, first taking out a juvenile cactus. After sticking it to the little prickle, David took aim at a much larger target, a 27-foot tall tower of spines. But instead of blowing through the junk in its trunk, he pointed his weapon at one of its many branches. Guess he wanted to disarm it first. Well, he would end up being successful in that venture. Yeah, a little too successful. According to reports, David's
Oh, shoot. It dropped on him.
shotgun slugs managed to blow off one of the cactus's arms. The arm, reportedly weighing nearly 500 pounds itself, fell several feet and landed right on top of David, crushing the man in a sudden cactastrophic death. The point here is, don't mess with a cactus. It's not the sharpest idea, and you just end up looking like a prick.
You're right, yeah. He forgot to say timber. Yeah.